There was a big gear announcement this week that literally took over the Patreon Slack
Yep.
and did something that I was fairly certain was impossible, which was making Dan legitimately consider putting his Quad Cortex on the market.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm literally going to the rehearsal space to pick up my Helix right now.
Yep.
And that is that Line 6 announced the HX 3.7 firmware update. And one of the things that we really love about this product and being owners of the HX line of stuff is that we've had these products for a long time and they just continue to add cool stuff to them.
Yeah.
Which makes me not want to buy more other things.
Right. Right.
And so this week they dropped a bunch of stuff, but there's a few things that I think we collectively were really, really excited about. And the last one is the one that I think is the game changer for a lot of people that definitely made Dan kind of reconsider his position.
100%. Yeah.
So first off, we got new amps. I think 10 new ones. A few Line 6 originals, which are basically ported over from the Catalyst amps that were released a couple of years ago. The two big ones that I'm really excited about are the 2203, which is basically the bone stock 100 watt JCM 800. And they released the Fender Bassman also. That was a huge deal for a lot of folks. A lot of people are upset though, because the Bassman is in the bass amp category, even though bass players don't ever play it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. But I will say I've been running that JCM 800 2203 through a lot of stuff and it sounds incredible.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because you start going through the other boutique takes on that amp and it really like you go to the original and it's the thing that we've been looking for and it's the thing that's been missing. And it seems kind of like a no-brainer that you would just have a JCM 800, but they haven't had one. They had a 2204, which was kind of like a tweaked 50-watt version that just didn't quite have the mojo that this one has. And I can say with authority that it is phenomenal. It sounds just amazing. And I've really enjoyed messing around with that one in particular. There's a bunch of new cabs as well. Nothing that really jumped out at me, but I was playing around. I really did spend a lot of time this week messing with the new cab system, trying to see if I could find a kind of combo mic cab speaker combination that hits the same notes as my favorite 5150 impulse response. And I'm not quite there, but I'm getting a lot of really great sounds. So it's been a lot of fun messing around with that.
And the new cab system, which has been implemented since I stopped paying attention to Helix updates,
3.5
is pretty darn great. I mean, it's all the flexibility you see in some other modelers. Quad Cortex has a similar kind of thing where you pick the cab, pick the mic, pick the position, pick the angle of the mic, pick the distance of the mic from the cone. It's very featureful, you know, I don't have very good ears when it comes to things like this. I have pretty okay taste when I hear noises, but like being able to know, oh, I should move that mic a quarter inch out from the cone, like it's not my skill set, but it makes it really easy to just fiddle with those things and land on something nice. So I think it's a big upgrade.
It's a bit of analysis paralysis because it is almost too many options.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's great that you can have a U67 or an MD 421 or a 57 or an S, like, but I know it sounds good. And frankly, they all kind of sound awesome.
Yeah.
I just don't know, like, okay, if I want more of whatever the thing that I'm missing, what do I do to make that happen?
Exactly.
That's the part that I'm always kind of like
now
having a hard time with.
Get me into a parameter EQ and I can make it happen there. Expressing it in terms of mic choice and position is not something that I'm, have played with it enough to understand.
But I will say this, like I have dialed in some really gnarly sounding cabs. So while they don't necessarily sound, what I'm having an issue with the 5150 impulse response is it's got this very specific, really powerful low end with this kind of scooped mid that is happening organically in the IR. Man, I'm telling you, I was in Logic, like analyzing the EQ and like, I was really, it was a lot.
Breaking down the spectrum. Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't quite get there, but it was an interesting exercise.
All right.
Now, another thing that really stood out to me is that bass players got a lot of love on this update. The biggest win being the Noble DI being added to the HX lineup. That's massive because I know a ton of bass players who swear by that DI, and the fact that you can just now just dial that in is incredible, especially considering the price comparison.
Yeah.
You know, the actual Noble DI, first off, you can't get one. It's currently a 10-month wait list to get one. They're going for $1,250.
Sure.
On Reverb, they're going for like $2,700 because again, you can't get one.
It'll ship tomorrow, but it's double retail.
Or you could get an HX Stomp for $500-$600 and have that as well as like, I don't know,
all the 1,000
things. Other things. Yeah. And the sound coming out of that model is outstanding. It's really, really good.
Cool.
And then the other big win as far as new effects is the one that basically just changed the game for you specifically, and also just I've been having a ton of fun with, which is that they've introduced a feedback pedal.
Yeah, so back in my days of having pedals on a board, I so fell in love with the Digitech Freakout, which is a same kind of thing, feedback emulator pedal. And it's so like juicy and musical and tasty and feels so good. And, feels like the olden days when you stand right in front of the amp and just let it scream. And it was just a very nice feeling thing. And then when I moved to modelers, none of them had that. And I wondered out loud, how hard could it be? And the answer is it took until version 3.7. That's how hard it was. And now we have it. And it's as nice as the Freakout. It's every bit as nice. Really good, really good. And it forced me to say, look, I like the Quad Cortex, but Neural DSP's software release cadence is desperately slow. Like, there are things they promised us at launch that still aren't in. And it does fine. I gig it fine. I like the size of it. I like the tones it makes. But this one missing pedal has been heartburn for me since I went into modelers. And to now have that in the Helix is, really opens my eyes about what direction I ought to be going. So I did go down to the practice space, get my Helix LT, sat it down here, updated it, played with that pedal, played with the new amps. They're great. And I am now pretty much thinking that I'm going to shift over to that for gigging for the time being.
Wow.
And, I played with a couple of patches out of the marketplace that fully explore the new amps and stuff that I really liked and seem very usable. I've completely forgotten how the workflow works, like the joystick moves things and how the buttons all move, what goes where. I'm gonna have to relearn all of that, but But in principle, it's got the thing that I have been hurting most to be missing, and the tones are equivalent for live use. It's not. People say that Quad Cortex modeling is better. I don't have golden ears about these things. I play it and it sounds fine, and certainly mixed into in a mix, we're never going to notice the difference.
Yeah.
So, that's a big change. That's a big change. I've been all in on Neural since the Quad Cortex was announced, and I'm now feeling like maybe it's going to gather a little dust here while I explore these other things coming out on the Helix side.
The preset that I built with that, I've got it set to the octave up with the fifth, with a 4-second attack, which basically kind of gives you that natural kind of feel that when you're ringing out a note and you're just kind of holding on to it where it kicks in, just like right. Oh, yeah. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. And I've just been, no agenda, just like, what is like the nastiest riff that I can come up with where I could just like dig into this thing. And it's been so fun rediscovering this hardware all over again. And it's like, now what does it sound like with this guitar? And I've been just, I've been an absolute mess. Like it's just been the sole focus of my life, just trying to make this thing sound as rad as possible. And getting pretty close.
Yeah, it's good. I always loved the freak out when it was set to like random pitch, because that's a little more true to my experience of real world feedback happening. You never quite know what pitch it's going to give you, but it's picking from the harmonic series, and it's similar, it's doing the same kind of stuff that real feedback is going to generate. And it always did it in such a musical way. That's no other way to say it. Like it picked notes that I'm like, oh yeah, that's a note I want. I don't know, it's really interesting. So I got to play with it and make sure that the Helix implementation is as tasty in that regard. But even if you just pick an octave up, or like you've done the octave and fifth up, it's nice. It's really nice.
Yeah, they've got 2 random modes, and I haven't quite dug into it that much, but like this is really starting to, last week I was like, well, I've been kind of futzing with this automation thing. This is starting to kind of like tip my hand even further, where it's like, I need to have this thing set up so that I can just like turn it on and off like certain parts of songs. And like, it really does give you pause where like, man, the possibilities with this kind of stuff is just awesome.
Yeah.
And I can't stress how much fun I have had playing through this update. I can't remember a firmware release that's happened in recent memory that has brought this much excitement.
Yeah.
I was pretty stoked when the rocker verb was dropped because that was the amp that I really like. I mean, it's right there. And I know that amp so well, but the JCM 800 is the tone for all of these classic rock deals. And if you get the right distortion going into it, you can really you can make it do all of the things that all of these other amps are doing.
Yeah. The new thing that these, I guess is new in how amps are designed for Helix now is there's a switch that changes the high and low inputs. I think it used to be those were different models and you had to put them both in your chain and switch between them. But now there's a switch you can flip to do the high gain input versus the low gain input. And so that's a signal path simplifier and a good way to make, I guess we call them snapshots in Helix.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that because the other thing that they put in is a boost, just like a standard like amp boost is now a part of a lot of these amp blocks. So, you're getting something that normally would take additional DSP that's now just kind of like part of the thing.
Yep.
Which is awesome.
Yep.
Like they're every single time they're like, hey, we've got these confines that we've got to work in, and we're just going to like squeeze as much of the juice out of this thing as we possibly can.
Yeah.
And it's so rad.
Yeah.
It's so rad.
Yeah. I'm excited about it.
Me as well.
Yeah.
So if you are a Helix person and you have not updated, first off, good on you because you saw that you had gigs this weekend and you're like, this sounds like fun, but I'm not going to risk it.
Right.
Just know that like you've got a week now. So go ahead and run that update and just go nuts because I cannot stress how awesome this update has been.
Yeah.
And it's super, super cool.
Yeah. This is a really good Thanksgiving weekend project.
Go do it.
Yeah.